sinking feeling, the one when you look at your final cruise statement on that last morning, or like me, you're afraid to look at it, and you realize that you spent hundreds of dollars on things that honestly you didn't even enjoy and you feel like you've been duped. I'm talking about the upgrades that sounded amazing online or you felt pressured to buy, but ended up being pretty useless on board. Or those packages that felt like peace of mind, but turned into money pits. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship, and we're gonna have an honest conversation about the things on a cruise that are a total waste of money, unless you like regret. I'm gonna tell you why the good old days of free upgrades are gone, why you should travel with an unexpected item, and the specific story of how my mom and stepdad almost lost a whole lot of money on a recent cruise just a few weeks ago. And stick around because I'm also gonna expose the biggest duty-free lie in the cruise industry. But let's start with the big one. The one everyone asks about constantly. I see this question asked dozens of times a day at every cruise social media forum. The daggone drink package. It's a trap for most people. The unlimited drink package, it sells you a feeling. It sells you a feeling of freedom, right? So you're on the Lido deck, you don't want to have to look at a bill, you don't want to have to think about tabulations and costs and how much a cocktail is going to cost. You just get what you want, right? But let's look at the actual math, because the cruise lines definitely have. And so much so, I actually have a whole dedicated video about cruise line drink packages. I'll give you the link, so check that out if you are debating whether or not to buy it. But with most major cruise lines, these packages, they're sky high, and they seem to go up every single year, and they keep tacking on extra service and gratuity fees. I'm talking 70, 80, sometimes over $100 per person per day, plus gratuity, plus service fee, all these other tack-ons. So if you're on a 7-day cruise, you've got 2 adults in a room, you're looking at over $1,000 even before you step on the ship. And to break even, you usually need to drink 6 to 8 alcoholic beverages every single day. Now, sure, if you've got an itinerary that has a lot of sea days, you're a heavy drinker, you're gonna spend most of the day by the pool just sipping cocktails, easy peasy, that's an easy decision. But you gotta think about port days. If you're off the ship, say in Cozumel for 8 hours, you're buying margaritas at the beach club on shore, you're at one of the all-inclusive beach clubs, you're essentially paying double. You paid for the package that you aren't actively using on the ship, and you're paying for drinks on land. So be honest with yourself. If you're a one mimosa at brunch type of person or a glass of wine at dinner type of person, don't let the cruise line convince you that you need an unlimited package. For most of us, you're better off paying a la carte. Now let's talk about another cruise ship money pit. The spa. I have a love-hate thing with cruise ship spas. It can sometimes be worth it, but you gotta be careful. Now, cruise ship spas, they're stunning. The thermal suites, they're beautiful. They are relaxing usually, but booking a treatment is often a trap. Now, here's the reality of the cruise ship spa industry that they don't put in the brochure. The staff are often heavily reliant on commission from selling products. So if you've ever visited a cruise ship spa, you can weigh in and tell me that I'm right, because you faced it too. If you book a massage or a facial thinking you're going to experience zen and relaxation and comfort and calm, you know what really happens? You get your treatment, which is usually not as long as you think because they count consultation time in there. And then you get about a 15-minute high-pressure sales pitch telling you that your skin is dehydrated, your pores are clogged, you have cellulite, and you need $300 worth of Elemis creams to fix all of these problems. So what should be a relaxing experience turns into a stressful negotiation, usually while you're half naked under a towel trying to politely say no 5 times. Now for me, I want to enjoy the spa without stress, and I will sometimes indulge in a cruise ship massage or a hair treatment or something like that. But I'm just very aggressive, and I just say in the very beginning, I know you're gonna try to sell me products, I know you have commission, I am not interested, please don't ask. And I say it with a smile on my face. Now, what can be a good deal are thermal suite passes. This gives you access to the hydrotherapy pools, the heated tile loungers, and the steam rooms for the whole week. And they can be a bargain, especially if you have an itinerary that has a lot of sea days. So with these, you go in, relax. Usually people don't try to bother you or sell you a bunch of stuff. And in many cases, that is money well spent. Now let's talk about the upgrade con. Now, if you've been cruising for a long time and you're in the old cruise guard of 20 plus years ago, you may remember the good old days. Back then, an upgrade was a real upgrade. It was a real reward. The cruise line might call you up a few weeks before you're sailing because you are a loyal cruiser and say, hey, we have spare inventory of rooms. We're gonna move you from an ocean view to a balcony on the house. Now, those days, they're pretty much gone. It just doesn't really happen that much anymore. Today, when you get an email from a cruise line about an upgrade, it's more of an upsell. So I actually always call them upsells. I refuse to call them upgrades. They want you to either bid on a room, which is Royal Caribbean Celebrity model, or they want you to pay extra, which is Carnival, a lot of the other cruise lines, to move up room categories. But you gotta be really careful. Often these upgrades are incredibly misleading. They might bill it as an upgrade because it's a higher category, but in reality, it just moves you from maybe a quiet, well-placed room on deck 2 to a noisy room on deck 10, right beneath the Lido deck, where you're gonna hear chairs scraping at 5 in the morning. I've had that room. It sucks. Don't do it. And Carnival is one of the worst offenders with this. They always say, hey, we have an upgrade offer for you. Pay a little bit more and we'll upgrade you because rooms on higher decks are better. I disagree with that. I don't think higher decks are better. Some of my best rooms I've ever had have been down low. And it's really great because then on port days, you can easily get back and forth to your room without having to fight for elevator space. Now, another thing is sometimes you bid on a suite guarantee and you end up in one weird suite that has an obstructed view or no privacy. I've fallen prey to that as well. For my birthday cruise last year on a Carnival Excel class ship, I had a suite. It was no better than any balcony room, and there was a massive obstruction, a huge white awning that completely blocked the downward view of the ocean. I would have far preferred a basic balcony with no obstruction to this suite with this huge obstruction. So just because it says a suite doesn't mean it's the best room ever. Now, if you bid on a guaranteed balcony, the cruise line is going to put you in a balcony room, but it's usually one that nobody else wants to book because a guaranteed stateroom or GTY stateroom means the cruise line picks your room for you. And people that know a lot about cruising, they know how to pick the right staterooms, or they have a travel agent, which I always recommend. They're going to pay the little bit extra to pick their room. Now, sometimes good deals can be had. Sometimes guaranteed staterooms end up being amazing, but more often than not, it's not. Now let's talk about another big cruise line scam, shore excursions. Now there is one major undeniable benefit to booking through the cruise line. If you've never taken a cruise, you're a newbie, book a cruise line excursion. If you don't know what you're doing, just book the cruise line excursion. There are benefits to it. The ship will wait for you. That's the big one. So if you're out on an excursion, the bus breaks down, that captain is not leaving until your bus full of people get back on board. That's peace of mind. You don't have to watch a clock, worry about missing the ship. And for a lot of people, high anxiety people, newbie cruisers, it's worth every single penny. However, you pay a premium for that peace of mind. And often it's a pretty big one. And the experience is often what I call the cattle call. You are herded like cattle. You're put on a bus on someone else's timeline with 60 other people. You have your stickers, you're slowly following along a guide, and you're moving as slow as the slowest person in the group. And for me, with ADHD brain, I gotta go fast. It's excruciating for me to be on a cruise line excursion. Plus, when you go to a destination, you're stuck there without any control. You can't say, okay, I've seen this, I don't love this attraction, let's go. And conversely, you can't say, hey, I love this attraction, I don't want to go just yet, I want to spend another 20 minutes here. You have no control at all. Plus, with cruise lines, they're expensive, it's crowded, it's impersonal. So here's a pro tip that changed cruising for me. I almost never do cruise line excursions. There are some rare exceptions, which I will. For example, if I want to go to a destination that's really far away from the cruise terminal area, and something like a broken down vehicle could mean missing the ship, I will still do a cruise line excursion. Or if I visit a cruise port destination that maybe isn't the safest area, and especially if I'm traveling solo, I will still do a cruise line excursion. But instead of paying $150 a person for a crowded bus tour where you feel like you're herded like cattle, you can do your own thing. And what I like to do is hire a private driver. I get a private driver for the entire day. It's a built-in tour guide. They take me where I want to go on my own time, just me and my group, or me if I'm solo. I get to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and for however long I want. And when I'm ready to go back to the ship, I go back, and they help me watch time. They make sure I get back to the ship. It's great. Highly recommend. And the kicker, a lot of times, depending on the size of your group, hiring a private driver is cheaper. Yes, cheaper, my friends, than cruise line excursions. I do have private drivers in 12 cruise line destinations. I'll drop the link below. If I have one in a place you're going, great. If not, sorry, I'm adding new ones all the time as I find them. Another option is to book with TripAdvisor, Viator. Always read reviews, though, if you're going out on your own, because there are some bad tours out there. There are some wastes of money. So always read reviews. But going independent for me is definitely the move. Now, this next cruise line waste of money is fresh in my mind because it just happened to me. Well, my family. And that is the photo package. I recently sailed on Royal Caribbean with my mom and stepdad. They hadn't taken a cruise in like 5 or 6 years. It had been a while. And because they don't cruise very often, they decided to really splurge and go whole hog on a lot of things. So they saw an all-included photo package. It had, I don't know, like 100 photos or something. So they bought it. And it was expensive. When they told me what they paid for it, I about gagged. But here's what happened when we got on board. And by the way, we were on Royal Caribbean's Radiance of the Seas. It's a smaller ship. We were busy. We were having fun. It wasn't a long cruise. It was like a 4 or 5 day cruise. And we weren't stopping every night at the photographer stations. And there just weren't that many opportunities to get photos. So by the last night of the cruise, I asked them, I said, how many pictures did you even have taken? And it was maybe only like a handful of photos. So they had prepaid hundreds of dollars for this package. And they were going to literally get maybe 5 or 6 photos out of it. And we hadn't even seen them yet to see if they even liked those photos. Thankfully, and kudos to Royal Caribbean here for doing the right thing, my mom and stepdad went to guest services, they advocated for a refund, and they were able to pretty easily get a refund for it. But that's not always the case. Had guest services not given them grace, that would have been an absolute waste of money. So my advice, unless you're planning a long cruise, you're gonna dress to the nines every night, you're gonna treat it like your personal glamour studio, you're gonna take time out of your cruise fund to stop at all these photo stations on ship and at the ports. Do not prepay for those big photo packages. Wait until you see the photos. And if you love one, buy the one, but don't commit to a package that you may never use. And while we're talking about spending money on board, let's talk about the duty-free shopping trap. Duty-free. That sounds like a discount, doesn't it? Who doesn't want to avoid taxes, right? We have been trained to think that buying jewelry, watches, artwork on a ship, or in the port shopping village is a bargain because we're saving on the tax, right? Now let me be clear, when I do cruise to Europe, I do like to buy a luxury bag for myself. It's the one souvenir I buy myself because that duty-free can be beneficial there. But in most cases, FE jewelry, high-end watches, used luxury bags, art auctions, they're rarely a financial deal. A lot of cruisers have actually done the pricing and the comparison, and often the sale price on a ship is higher than what you would pay for a similar item at a department store or a reputable jeweler back home, even when you factor in the taxes. And what they're doing is they're accounting for the fact that many cruisers don't have Wi-Fi, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and they can't easily price compare. So they convince you that you're getting a great deal and, oh, hey, it's also tax-free, who doesn't love that? And you end up making a poor buying decision. Now, this next one really frustrates those longtime cruisers. As I mentioned, the old guard, cruising is not like that anymore. And I'm talking about room service. In the old days, room service was free. It was standard. It was included. It was 24/7. It was this huge array of options. It was one of the perks of cruising that made it feel like a luxury at a value price. If you wanted a club sandwich at 2 in the morning, it's at your door. Now, you have to read the fine print carefully. Most cruise lines now charge a delivery fee or a service charge. Royal Caribbean, for example, charges per order. So even if you order one cookie or a feast for 5 people, the service charge is gonna be the same. And as of the time of this video, it's about $10. And then you have cruise lines like Carnival. They have really cut back on their room service options, so you have limited options, and they charge per item. So if you order a sandwich, chips, a pizza, dessert, ka-ching, 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 it adds up. And suddenly that late night snack costs you more than a meal at a fast casual restaurant on land. I just got off a Virgin Voyages cruise where they have free room service, but you have to spend $10 in beverages to get it, or you pay a $10 delivery fee. So the cost or the fees can vary by cruise line, so it's important to always check the app before you place the order. Now, a nice little hidden secret about a lot of cruise lines that many cruisers, especially newbies, might not realize is that you can, in many cases, still get free continental breakfast, things like coffee, toast, fruit, maybe cereal or yogurt, and it's usually free in the morning. But the cruise lines are not always very vocal about sharing that. It's kind of hidden because they don't want you taking advantage of it because it costs them money. And nowadays, especially, cruise lines are all about their bottom line. So if you take a cruise, dig around and make sure and find out if you get free continental room service. And if you do, there's nothing better than having a coffee brought to your door that you're enjoying out on your balcony with those beautiful ocean views. And speaking of room service and food, I want to give you my favorite cruise hack, which is to bring with you a Ziploc bag. Now, again, people that haven't cruised in ages, every time I make a video about this, people come and rip me to shreds. Like, who needs a Ziploc bag on a cruise? Food is everywhere. And it's like, okay, friend, when's the last time you took a cruise? Because it's not like that anymore. As I just mentioned, a lot of cruise lines have scaled back on room service. It's not 24/7. It's very limited in options. I eat gluten-free, gluten-light, which really limits my options. And there are many times, either late at night when everything's closed or that weird gap during the day with certain cruise lines like Holland America Line. I love Holland, but there's certain like 3-hour gap in the middle of the day where it's too late for lunch, too early for dinner, and there's really not any food options available or not good ones, that I wish I had a Ziploc bag full of food that I had squirreled away that I had easily available in my stateroom. So a lot has changed with cruising and having a Ziploc that if you do eat gluten, you can pop a pastry in the morning in there. My daughter loves hard-boiled eggs, so I'll put a hard-boiled egg and keep it in the stateroom fridge or cooler. But cruising has changed a lot, especially since 2020. We're seeing cutbacks, which continue year over year. Venues close earlier, menus are limited, fees are tacked onto everything. And if you do go to the pizza place at night, the lines are out the door. There's gonna be times you just want an easy snack. You don't wanna pay the room service fee, and sometimes that is an hour, hour and a half wait too. So having a Ziploc bag with you can be a lifesaver. And let's circle back to something I mentioned earlier, which is the internet. Now, a lot of people are like me, we're digital nomads. I am an actual professor. I have to work from sea, at least during the school year. Or if you have kids or elderly family or other people at home that you need to keep up with, you have to pay for Wi-Fi in most cases. Now, one benefit of cruising, one thing that actually has improved and not gotten worse, is the Wi-Fi. It used to be pretty terrible even as recently as a few years ago. Most cruise lines now have upgraded to Starlink, and that has been a significant change. With cruise lines with Starlink, the internet is fantastic compared to what it used to be. But if you are sailing on an older ship that hasn't been upgraded, Keep in mind that the Wi-Fi can be a waste of money because even the premium package can be painfully slow, and you might not be able to do things like Zooms or even more basic things that don't require streaming or video conferences. As I mentioned, I just took a Virgin Voyages cruise and they had free basic Wi-Fi, but the free basic Wi-Fi was so slow it was almost unusable. So before you pony up the money for internet, which is not cheap these days, a lot of cruise lines are 20, 30 bucks a day per person or per device for internet, make sure it's gonna do what you need it to do. And for those of you that don't need internet on a cruise, consider yourself lucky because not all of us have that luxury. So I wanna know what you think. What is a complete and total waste of money on a cruise? And what do you think is worth it? Drop your comments below and let's talk ship.